We are back with another NFL divisional preview, and today we are doing the NFC East, one of the biggest divisions in all of football in terms of the overall fan bases of the teams. But before we get into the video, I wanted to take a second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Really helps us out. If you're a fan of the NFL, you'll love this channel as we release multiple NFL-related videos every Tuesday and Friday all year long. Now, let's get back to the video. So we're going to start out the NFC East with the Washington Commanders / football team / redacted / whatever the heck you want to call them. Either way, we're starting with Washington, who finished at 4-13 last year, good enough to be the second worst record in the NFL, which allowed them to draft Jaden Daniels at number 2 overall in the 2024 NFL entry draft. That being said, even with the additions that the Washington Commanders made during the offseason, I'm not sure that they're a significantly better team than they were in 2023, if they are at all better. And that's because they also lost a fair number of significant assets of their defense specifically. They traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young during the middle of last season, which were two very important pieces of their absolutely dominant defensive line. That was their one really shining light of hope going into 2023. Now, they still do have Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen at the defensive tackle spots on that D-line, but the lack of an edge rusher, given they traded away both as impending free agents for the 2024 season, means that their defensive line won't be as effective as it was during the first half of last season, when this team was a lot better than during the second half. Beyond that, the Commanders also lost Kyle Fuller in the offseason, who left as a free agent, who was a decent cornerback and probably their top corner of that defense. So the defense is nowhere close to as good. They still do have pieces like Terry McLaurin on the offense, and if Jaden Daniels can come in and be a top-tier rookie quarterback, this team might have a decent upside going for them. And given the number of draft picks that the Commanders had and how high those draft picks were, they might have a shot, if a lot of these guys are very successful year one, to compete, much like teams like the Rams did in 2023, where their draft picks were just so impactful for the team that with some of their good veterans, they were able to make a run for it. That being said, I think the likes of Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Matt Stafford are a lot better holdover veterans than what the Washington Commanders have to work with, but there is upside where this team isn't quite as bad as they were in 2023. And in terms of the prediction, I don't think they'll be as bad as 2023, because after they got rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat, this team really didn't have anything going for them. And I expect Jaden Daniels to at least be an upgrade over the quarterback situation that the Commanders had in 2023. But I still have their record at 5-12. I still think they're going to be one of the lower ranked teams in terms of record in the NFL, losing more than twice as many games as they'll win. But that's just what happens when you're in a rebuild, and I think the Commanders are kind of doing it the right way. They're going to have a lot of cap room moving forward. They don't have a lot of long-term money locked in, so they're doing the right thing, but there's still a few years of pain to come. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who Jerry Jones told us he's going all in this year, and well, we all know how that happened. Apparently, all in is taking back Zeke. I mean, at least cheaper than he was a few years ago, but still, I mean, you lost a significant number of players from your team. You lost Tyron Smith. You lost some other guys on that offensive line. Yeah, you replaced some of them during free agency, but also losing Leighton Vander Esch. You're not as good a team on paper as you were going into 2023. Now, yes, you are getting a guy like Trayvon Diggs back, who did miss the majority of last season and is a very effective cornerback to go alongside Deron Bland, and a really good overall Dallas Cowboys defense, even with the loss of Leighton Vander Esch. But still, limited additions with this roster, included with all the turnover that this roster has had, and the fact that this team really hasn't managed their long-term assets and players. I mean, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons are all looking for contracts right now, and not a single one of them has gotten one. Now, the reason they apparently haven't gotten these contracts is that Jerry Jones is worried about that $14.5 billion lawsuit settlement that the NFL might need to pay. If you're curious to learn a little bit more about that lawsuit, I'll leave a link in the description below to a video we made about a month ago discussing that lawsuit and the potential ramifications for the NFL. Ultimately, though, whether Jerry Jones is right or wrong about his trepidations associated with this lawsuit, the fact of the matter is the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of highly productive players that they'll want to keep around that need new contracts ASAP, and they haven't given them any, and as such, haven't even gone out and gone new free agents because they don't have the money to, because of the high priority players they need to keep in-house. I think this is going to be a massive season for the Dallas Cowboys, where not just their regular season success, but their playoff success will really determine the long-term future of this franchise. Do they stick with the Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons era, or do they effectively blow it all up, maybe keep one of those guys around, and rebuild this team from the ground up while having potential windfalls due to not paying guys in lieu of this big lawsuit? I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm not going to speculate what the NFL is going to do on that lawsuit past what I already have. Either way, though, I will speculate on the Cowboys' win total, and I think they're going to end with 11-6 record. That is one game down from their 12-5 record in 2023, but I still think it's a very good record because I do think this team is still going to be quite productive. They still have Dak Prescott throwing to CeeDee Lamb, and I still think that will be one of the best connections in the NFL. They did draft a guy like Tyler Guyton, who I think can help plug some holes in the offensive line and really help this team replace some of the guys they lost during the offseason. And as I said before, getting back Trayvon Diggs is a massive addition for this team. So I do still think they'll be able to compete in a weaker NFC, at least compared to the AFC. And so 11-6 seems to be a reasonable record for them, in my opinion. But it's going to be their playoff success that's going to determine the long-term future of this franchise. The third team in the division is the Philadelphia Eagles, who are a really tough team to wrap your head around in terms of what they're going to be in 2024. On the one side, their roster is fantastic. They went all the way to the Super Bowl in the 2022 season, and they started off as one of the best records in the NFL in 2023. On the other hand, the second half of the 2023 Eagles season was absolutely atrocious. Jalen Hurts definitely took a step back, and you lost one of your emotional leaders in Jason Kelce, along with some other veterans like Fletcher Cox. And so the question becomes, what version of the Philadelphia Eagles are we going to get? Are we going to get the team that is one of the best teams in football who can beat almost anyone on any given day? Or are we going to get the version of the team that can't even put up a fight against a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team who really only made the playoffs because they were in the putrid NFC South? To give away the answer a little bit, at least in terms of what I think they're going to be a little bit closer to that really good team than they're going to be to that atrocious team we saw at the latter part of last year. After the 2022 season, the Philadelphia Eagles lost both their offensive and defensive coordinators to head coaching jobs, and watching what both Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon did as head coaches has shown me that I do really think both of those individuals were very good coordinators on the offense and defense and really helped the Philadelphia Eagles have one of the best productivity teams in 2022. And coming into 2024, they've replaced both their coordinators again, this time because they fired both their coordinators. And by adding in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, I think the Eagles have absolutely taken steps in the right direction towards improving their coordinator positions. I'm not saying Vic Fangio or Kellen Moore will set the world on fire, but both of these guys know what they're doing and are established coordinators in the NFL who have overseen some very effective offenses and defenses respectively. And so I think given that the Eagles can definitely improve over what they were in 2023, given the level of talent this roster has. Oh, and by the way, they also added in Saquon Barkley, one of the most elite runners in the NFL, to go behind an already very good offensive line to go alongside a very good running QB and good receiving options, along with a defense that they spent a lot of draft picks improving their secondary, which was the one area of weakness of the defense. So they've also really improved their other weaknesses and made the team significantly more well-rounded. The last note I'll say with the Eagles before I get into the prediction is that they are literally the antithesis of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are being very conservative in giving out contracts to their players because they have some trepidations with the long-term future of the NFL in terms of the salary cap and the revenue structure. Comparatively to the Eagles are all on board with the NFL's revenue and salary cap skyrocketing because that's the only way they'll be able to keep at all a competitive team for the next decade after the following couple years, given how front-loaded every significant contract this team has is on their books. And so where do I think the Eagles are going to end up? Well, I have them also going 11-6. Funnily enough, I see the Cowboys and Eagles going in opposite directions in terms of what their strategy is long term, but I think both teams are fairly evenly matched in terms of where they'll end up record-wise. I have them going 500 against each other. I have them both going 4-2 within the division. And so I really do believe these teams are going to be neck and neck throughout the entirety of the regular season, and it's going to come down to tiebreakers for who wins the division, and I'll tell you that when we get into the final division standings at the end here. Our final NFC East team is the New York Giants, and this division really is a tale of two situations. The Cowboys and Eagles both have hyper-talented rosters that maybe coaching might be a bit of an issue, but could absolutely go and have the best record in the NFC if things break right, could absolutely be Super Bowl contenders, and are looking to be Super Bowl contenders in 2024. Comparatively, you have the Commanders along with the Giants, who could well be some of the worst teams in the NFL in 2024, which will also help the Cowboys and Eagles get some pretty good records within their division. Last season, the Giants finished 6-11, the year after they literally made the playoffs, which somehow both feel like exceeding expectations when you look at the roster that the New York Giants have. I mean, yes, they do have a guy like Dexter Lawrence, and they did trade for Brian Burns, so they have a pretty decent defensive front. But beyond that, what does this team have? They have a couple decent pieces on the offensive line, and they drafted Malik Neighbors, and then what else? Like, I'm sorry, this team is really not looking very good going into 2024. I do like Brian Daboll as their head coach, and I give him a lot of credit for helping Daniel Jones basically finesse his way into a $40 million per year contract. But beyond that, I think the New York Giants are really, at this point, just looking forward to 2025 in that quarterback class, because they're really not doing a lot to try to put this team in the position to win football games anytime soon. I don't think even they believe Daniel Jones is the future. I just think they know he has guaranteed money this year, so why go and try to bring in a new quarterback when you can have Daniel Jones for one more year and then convince ownership to jump ship? And so while I do think the Giants do have some building blocks for a long-term future on this team with Malik Neighbors, if he's able to work out as a top 10 pick, as well as Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, I don't think this team is going anywhere, given I just don't know how they score touchdowns in 2024. And so I have them finishing 3-14. This may well be one of the worst records in the NFL, and I just don't see how they win many games. They do get the Panthers in 2024, and that might be the only team they can be better than in 2024, because I just don't have high hopes for the Giants at all. And so here is the final division breakdown for the NFC East as I have it. I do have the Philadelphia Eagles finishing first, Cowboys finishing second with identical records. I did predict every individual game, and while they're tied in head-to-head and tied in divisional ranking, the Eagles pull ahead by having one more win against common opponents. I think both the Eagles and Cowboys will make the playoffs. Cowboys will end up in the 5th or 6th seed along with the Packers, whoever wins that tiebreaker. I didn't go through what I thought that tiebreaker will be. Sorry about that. But I feel like this is just what needs to happen in the NFC East. Since the NFL expanded to 32 teams back in 2002, the NFC East has been won by a different team every single year. And so it just makes sense that the Cowboys wouldn't win it again. And I think we all know the Commanders and Giants aren't winning it. Even if you're the most diehard Commanders and Giants fans, I mean, come on. You know they're not winning the division. We don't have to lie about this. We know. And so I think it just makes sense with the Eagles finishing first. It also is what I predicted based on matchups. And so, yeah, we got the Eagles first, Cowboys second, but making the playoffs as a wild card team. Commanders third, and the Giants, they're going to be picking a quarterback this coming year. But that's it for our video on the NFC East. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and comment down below. Help us out, help us grow. Either way, I'll see you all next time. Peace!